Welcome everybody, my name is Andy and today I'm joined by John. I want to discuss about whether or not Bioshock 1 and 2 are the masterpieces as people say they are. I'll be explaining the story and then gameplay, then I'll give my opinion on the games themselves. Keep in mind I'll use the main game, so no DLCs. So before we start, I want to give a spoiler alert since I'll be talking in detail about the story in the games, and all the footage I'll use will be linked down in the description for the individual channels. Don't forget to subscribe and like for more. Bioshock 1 takes place in 1960 when the protagonist Jake survives a plane crash and finds the entrance to the underwater city called Rapture, where he thinks it's all a mistake and he wants to find info about the place he's currently in. Jack is quickly attacked by one of the few main basic enemies of the game. He's contacted by a known character that soon reveals himself, named as Atlas. Atlas is helping you along the way and explains to you how to get out of the Rapture and how to survive doing that. As soon as you step out of the main elevator, you can see the place starting to crumble under your feet. The people that live there have all been brainwashed by drugs, not even listening to reason, also known as splicers. Their only goal is to kill every stranger and get Adam from the Little Sisters, risking their own lives against the Big Daddies. After getting a few weapons, Atlas tells you about Adam, where you have to harvest a little sister, which are normally protected by a Big Daddy, but the first one you find is defenseless, where it seems like an easy way to get Adam. Suddenly, Bridget Tenenbaum shows up and tells you not to kill the little sisters and instead save them.
I'll not have him hurt my little ones!
It's okay, lad. That's not a child. Not anymore, it ain't. Dr. Tenenbaum saw to that.
Bitte do not hurt her! Have you no heart?
Aye, that's a pretty sermon coming from the ghoul who cooked up them creatures in the first place. Took fine little girls and turned them into that, didn't you? Listen to me, boyo. You won't survive without the aid of those things they're carrying. Are you prepared to trade your life, the lives of my wife and child, for Tenenbaum's little Frankenstein?
Here! There is another way. Use this. Free them from their torment.
Where you put up to a choice to harvest little girls, seeming as the evil choice that gives you full Adam, or save them, the good choice that gives you less Adam but more rewards along the way. You use Adam to buy plasmids, upgrades, and along the way, which help you in different situations. During your journey you encounter different enemies and bosses, with the end goal of escaping, which Atlas says is possible after you kill the third main character in the story, Andrew Ryan. That, after you meet him, reveals that you are brainwashed and forces you to kill him.
Kill! Juices!
After the encounter with Andrew Ryan, Atlas reveals himself as the big bad of the game called Frank Fontaine.
The name's Frank Fontaine.
Then he orders you to help him escape. Bridget Tenenbaum comes back to help you get rid of the brainwashing, which you quickly do when you're off to face against Frank Fontaine. Here is where the game starts getting complicated. Bioshock 1 has 3 endings, depending on how you interact with the little sister. Tenenbaum narrates over every single ending, changing depending on your choices. The first ending is where you defeat Frank Fontaine and escape to the surface with the little sisters if you save them instead of harvesting them, where they all grow up, and on the weird note seems to have all married you.
To find love. To live. And in the end, what was your reward? You never said. But I think I know. A family.
In the second ending, if you harvest all the little girls, you defeat Frank Fontaine, and this time instead of a happy ending, some of the enemies in the game escape and, well, kill all the humans outside.
Your father was terrified the world would try to steal the secrets of his city. But not you, for now you have stolen the terrible secrets of the world.
If you decide to slay some and harvest some, it's basically the same as ND2, but this time Tenenbaum has a sadder voice, not an angry voice.
They offered you everything, yes? And in return you gave them what you always did. Brutality. World.
In Bioshock 1, you're equipped with 8 different weapons and 11 plasmids. The weapons are a wrench. The first weapon you unlock is just a melee weapon that becomes pretty bad halfway through the game, since the enemies start getting super strong. Though I love using this combination with an upgrade that lets you freeze the enemies. The pistol, which is the second weapon you unlock, has 3 different ammo types: regular bullets, anti-personal bullets, and anti-armor bullets. The pistol was my favorite weapon. Other than that, it was just a generic pistol. The third weapon is a machine gun, which is by far the worst weapon because it has a huge recoil, low damage, and late in the game is basically useless. It has the same 3 ammo types as the pistol. The fourth weapon is a shotgun, which is not the best but not the worst either. It's a decent weapon with big damage up close, which in the game is pretty dangerous to get up close. The shotgun has regular bullets, electric bullets, and exploding bullets. 6 out of 10. The fifth weapon is a grenade launcher, which is the best or second best weapon to deal with big daddies or to stay away and just shoot grenades. The grenade launcher has regular bombs, heat-seeking missiles, and proximity mines. 6.5 out of 10. The sixth weapon is a chemical thrower, which is by far the most forgettable weapon in the entire game. It has low damage, uses ammo fast, and is overall pretty crappy. It has liquid nitrogen, electric gel, and napalm as ammo. 2 out of 10. The seventh weapon is by far the most damaging weapon in the game, the crossbow, which is even more useful and powerful in the second game. It has regular bolts, incendiary bolts, and trap bolts. 9 out of 10. The eighth weapon is not really a weapon, but it's pretty useful. It's the camera, which you can take photos of enemies to get bonuses in dealing with them, which sadly I didn't use much and I thought was a bad idea. 9.5 out of 10. Each weapon except the wrench can be upgraded at a different weapon station you can find on the map. Since I took a long time talking about the weapons, I will quickfire through the plasmid and gin tonics. Cyclone Trap. You spawn a small tornado, throw enemies away. Electro Bolt. The most useful plasmid that you'll use for stunning enemies, disabling turrets, cameras, and so on. And killing enemies in the water. Enrage. You enrage enemies. Yeah, they attack each other. Pretty useless. Hypnotize Big Daddies. Good concept, though most of the time this plasmid is useless since you need enemies nearby, and a lot of the time there are none. There's only you and the Big Daddy. Incinerate, a pretty useful plasmid where you burn enemies and can dissolve ice. Insect Swarm, summon insects. Next. Security Bullseye, just hack the camera, don't be lazy. Sonic Boom, you blow enemies and objects away and deal damage. Target Dummy, summon a dummy, distract enemies. Telekinesis, allow you to pick up items from afar and throw objects. Winter Blast, freezes enemies. The plasmids can be upgraded using add-on at the Gatherer's Garden. There are also Gin Tonic that have 3 groups. Combat Tonic that focuses on combat advantage, Engineering Tonic that focuses on hacking or getting a sale on the different shops and stations around the game. Physical Tonics that focus on making you more tanky, having different effects on melee attacks to give more EV or health from medkits or hacks or when you get attacked by enemies.
There are various types of resources and uses for them, from ammunition to health to crafting items. To get ammunition, you can buy it from 2 types of shops, the Circus of Value or El Amo Bandito, or craft it at a U event station. Health can be bought at a health station or at the Circus of Value. Eve can be bought at the Circus of Values and gathered from Eve dispensers. All can be found on enemies or scattered around everywhere around the game. You can buy different plasmids and tonic from Gatherer's Garden, which requires Adam to be purchased. Adam can only be obtained from the Little Sisters or the various gifts they give you if you save them instead of harvesting them. There are various upgrades from upgrading the G-tonic, plasmid, or weapons. Plasmid have various small upgrades that buff the damage or effectiveness, for example, Incinerate 1, Incinerate 2, and Incinerate 3. There are other plasmids that can be upgraded like Electro Bolt, Insect Swarm, or Winter Blast. Each weapon can be upgraded twice, giving damage upgrade, higher clip size, less ammo wasted, etc. Gin Tonic has the same amount of upgrades like weapon wounds from level 1 to level 2. Physical tonics have level 3 variants as well. Some G tonics are Alarm Expert, Vending Expert, Armor Shelled, Eveling, Hacker's Delight, etc. Hacking in the game is made to ease your difficulty going through turrets, cameras, and security bots, but can also give you a discount at the different vendors in the game and also hack through some locked doors or safes to retrieve awesome rewards.
We're going to talk about the pros and cons of Bioshock 1, which after playing I actually enjoyed. The option to choose being a good guy or a bad guy. The creator gives you the choice to do something characterizing to the protagonist, as a good or a bad guy. Even though it does not change the story that much, whether you save the little girls or not, the only difference is you either get the good or bad ending. The gigantic arsenal and plasmid. Even though the arsenal might be too big and just make some weapon forgettable, it gives you a choice in every single fight whether you want to use the pistol or crossbow or maybe the chemical launcher. The surreal place you're in. It's no surprise Bioshock is set in an underwater city that is crumbling under your feet, and at every corner you see some drug addict trying to kill you, and some heavy machinery people helping little girls collect Adam from dead bodies. Just makes the atmosphere just perfect for some sort of horror game, which Bioshock is not really one, but the sounds and the rusty looking place makes it feel alive even though it's a kind of a dead city. Whether you can hear screams, see creatures, places falling apart, and all the heavy metal clanking next to each other. The story and the characters. Most of the story in the game and the characters you meet are mostly through the different recording messages you can find scattered around the place, and some of them being hidden. There are some rooms locked behind codes that you need to find some audio recordings or papers.
Even though in the props we said the story and the characters are interesting, but if you're not really an explorer to find different recordings, you don't really know what happened to Raps or its people. The story itself is decent but pretty generic on its own. No surprise to say that in a game where the main character just follows order from the beginning has no character development, even though you can save the little sisters, that's literally the only development your character has, which will be a returning problem later on in the video. Even though the game keeps you on edge every single corner you're taking, the game tends to become repeated after a while, where the only things you do are enter a new era, find the person you have to help kill, or the item you have to unlock, do the thing, progress. It changes once in a while, but overall the missions tend to get somewhat repetitive. This issue specifically in Bioshock 1 since there's only one literal boss fight, which is Frank Fontaine at the end of the game. Other than that, it's just some third-rated enemies that have some bigger health bars like the Big Daddies and the Advanced Splicers. The hacking in the game is supposed to help you in dealing with turrets, cameras, or get some cheaper trades at vendors, but after a while the hacking becomes outright impossible without auto hacking or a lot of upgrades.
So from my experience, the game is actually a very good and interesting game which can really captivate you if you're willing to explore the world it's set in. If you just want a shooter where you just want to go and kill people slowly going to the end, this is not the best game, for since it's focusing more on storytelling than actually just being a shooter. Gameplay wise, the game is a solid 8 out of 10 with its ups and downs. It's really fun experience. Without the repetitiveness, it would be a 9 out of 10. Characters wise, it's gotta be a 5 out of 10. I'm sorry, but the characters are really forgettable. Other than Tenenbaum, you don't feel like the characters even have a reason. Andrew Ryan you barely see, and the first time you meet him, you kill him. Frank Fontaine is not really that interesting, and the protagonist doesn't even have a voice or will for that matter. Hostile has to be a 9 out of 10. It's somewhat cartoonish at times that somewhat look like Borderlands. That in this game does not match, as Borderlands is more of a comedic entry in the game genre. They're both releasing by the same studio, but other than that you can see destroyed places and the splicer looking mindless and such. The way it's depicted is pretty good. Story is a 9 out of 10, even though I said the game gets repetitive and such, and that the story is non-existent. The game has a really deep story, if you take the time to check it out fully instead of just running around through the game. Difficulty is a 7 out of 10. Keep it in mind I played the game on medium, but the game was not hard nor easy. It was easier than I expected, dying only a couple of times. Overall, the game is an 8 out of 10. I think it was very generous with my grades, but in the second part of the video I'll be more rough, because the first game made me just want to play it. Well, everyone, that's it for the first episode of a new series I'm making called Honest Reviews. This was the first episode, so do expect improvement in the future. This episode, Bioshock 1, and next up, Bioshock 2, are the one with less details and less complex than the future that will make. Keep in mind, this is the first episode, and Bioshock 2, I'll consider it as the first episode as well, because honestly this was supposed to be a big part, but I decided to cut it in two, so making Bioshock 1 and 2 from different episodes. but they were made together. Next up, I will have more details, more review, and making like grander. I don't know which games I'll be making next. I'll probably put a poll after Bioshock 2 or just randomly pick something. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.